Overtired. So tired. Overtired.
Hello, everybody. Hello, you there in the kitchen and you there in your car.
You there in the bushes.
The rain dripping on your windshield. In the bushes. Ugh. Is that like a USB speaker situation? One of those little ones?
Yes.
I am Jeff Severance Gunsel, one of three hosts of the Overtired podcast, although only two hosts are here for the first few minutes. One of them is Brett Terpstra.
Hello, Jeff.
And Christina's Taylor Swifting. She's getting tickets.
Let me read you. Christina's last message in our group chat says, "Start without me. I've got to get tickets for my mom."
Been there. I've never been there.
I've never been there.
That's not true. I bought my mom and I tickets for a Parliament Funkadelic show in Chicago about 5 or 10 years ago.
5 or 10.
My first concert was my mom and her boyfriend took me to the Met Center here in Minnesota, in Bloomington, and where the Mall of America now stands. And we went and saw the Parliament Funkadelic, and I was like 5 years old. It was my first concert.
P-Funk?
I got no memories.
Yeah.
The band lives in me.
Wait, you were young enough that you have no memories, but you bought the tickets?
No. Come on now. Focus.
I'm sorry. I got distracted.
Bought the tickets.
I
bought
bought right away.
I bought the tickets for 5 to 10 years ago when we saw Parliament Funkadelic.
In
honor of and as a thank you for taking me in 1980.
Oh my God. Yeah, I'm super scattered today. Like, you started talking and I just immediately left the room. I'm sorry. It's not personal. It's not.
I'm familiar with this response. One time I was upset that my partner had forgotten something that I had told her. And I said, I mean, it was important. I told you. And she goes, but you say so much. I was like, oh man, touche. You won that round.
Right before this episode, I had a therapy appointment, and it struck me that my therapist remembers stuff we've talked about. Like, I don't remember telling my therapist all kinds of things. And he's like, well, a couple weeks ago, you mentioned this person and your relationship in this regard. And I was like, really? We talked about that? Holy shit. But I also appreciate about my therapist that I can change the topic whenever I get bored and he'll just track with me. He's like, okay, we're talking about this now, which is like having a conversation with an ADHD person who's perfectly willing to jump when you jump.
Well, it's also like I would imagine if you're a therapist and your client is sort of suddenly bouncing out of a topic, that's data.
Yeah, for sure. Scratching the notepad.
I see.
Cannot maintain a train of thought. Yeah.
I had a therapist for about 5 years and who was absolutely incredible at holding my story and was able to call back to conversations 4 years, 3 years previous in really meaningful, very timely ways. And all she had were handwritten notes. Yeah. And I just thought that was it felt so good. And in fact, she retired, which is why I stopped seeing her as a therapist. But like, it was sad to leave just for that reason. Yeah. Selfishly, because it felt like, oh, you know so much, maybe more than any other person on earth about me.
Yeah.
And you're just going to retire? What's this about? But it is a good feeling.
I still need you.
I still need you.
Yeah.
So anyhow, that's my deal.
Should we do mental health corner, or should we hope that Christina jumps in any second now?
Yeah. You want to talk mental health corner? Should we walk over here to the corner? Come on over.
Yeah.
Brett.
Come on.
There's a little stool for you. It's green.
I went to a preschool called Pooh Corner.
No.
After Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah. What?
Not.
Oh, not Poo Poo. Yeah, no, I was tracking, but actually it's really good you clarified.
Not Poop Corner, but at our graduation, there were posters of Winnie and Piglet and I definitely grew up with a fascination for Winnie the Pooh. Did you ever see, this is kind of mental health corner because this is the recesses of my brain, but did you ever see the more recent Christopher Robin's movie?
No, I did not.
There's this amazing moment where he wakes up in the 100-Acre Wood. Christopher Robins, who's played by, what's his name? I don't remember. Anyway, he wakes up in the 100-Acre Wood, Christopher Robins, as an adult, and he says, oh no, it's tomorrow, when he looks at his watch. And Winnie the Pooh says, oh, that's weird. It's almost always today.
Oh,
Blew my mind.
Oh, I love that. Oh, that's awesome.
I love Winnie the Pooh so much.
Yeah, lots to love. Lots to love.
That's funny. It's almost always today. Oh man.
That's
so
lovely.
I'm not depressed, but I'm depressed. And this goes back to my whole thing about how I don't think I ever find stable. Like I am full of anxiety and self-doubt right now. I've been losing sleep over upcoming events that I can't talk about publicly yet. But like so like there's something coming up that if it happens, it means a major change in my life. And I have to make adaptations before I can make that change. And it's both sides of that are very stressful to me. And I have stress dreams, even if I try to convince myself like there's nothing to stress about. It will keep me up all night, and it's not mania. I wish it was mania, but it's just insomnia combined with depression and anxiety, and it's driving me insane right now. And if this thing doesn't happen, then I have to cope with the idea that, you know, the things that I don't like aren't going to change, which is a whole level of stress on its own. I wish I could say,
Right.
I wish I could be more elaborate about what's happening, because I do much better when I can speak in plain terms.
Let me ask you, I have a question. Have you ever seen the we started with Pooh, and now I'm going to ask you about the feelings wheel. Have you ever seen that?
No, I don't know.
It's basically it's a wheel. It's a circle, right? And there are 1, 2, 3 rings of that circle. Okay. In the center are these emotions or feelings: anger, sadness, surprise, joy, love, and fear. Right. But what it does in the next layer out, if we take fear, it gives you more words: scared, terror, insecure, nervous, horror, right?
I have seen something like this.
For terror, there's hysterical and panic. For scared, there's helpless and frightened. For insecure, there's inadequate and inferior. It's like, it's actually an amazing way to find the word I'm actually looking for. Because you're just saying I'm depressed, but I'm not depressed. I'm depressed.
Yeah.
Like,
No,
I would just be curious
this.
What would happen if you looked at that, because it does actually give you a language. And I will tell you that, having known about this for a long time, my partner's a therapist and just like left it out one day. I don't think intentionally for me. And I remember just feeling like, wow, there is so much language to help me describe or even discover how I feel right now. Right.
Yeah.
When I get locked in the same few words.
Okay. So I found it on the internet. And let's see, scared. Let's see, energetic, playful, creative, sad, mad. Oh, scared. Okay, so scared. I'm feeling insecure, foolish. Foolish. Am I feeling foolish?
Ooh,
no.
Where's foolish? It might have a different one.
It goes scared, insecure, and then insecure just goes straight to foolish. There's no like.
Oh, interesting.
Multiple
I think there must be
there.
many different versions of the feeling wheel, because for me, insecure goes to inadequate and inferior. And I'm not, okay. I just grabbed one off the internet too. I don't know.
Inadequate makes more sense to me. Oh my God. Yeah. Like every one of these feelings wheels is different. Yes.
Which is also cool.
I found the one that has inferior and inadequate, and I'm feeling inadequate. Like I feel like I can't keep doing what I'm doing because I'm not adequate, and I'm worried that I can't do what I want to do because I'm not adequate. Yeah. I'm feeling
Yeah.
inadequate. That's my
Inadequate.
mental health check-in. I'm feeling inadequate.
Yeah.
Even though I've been told I'm perfectly adequate, both by my therapist and by my girlfriend and by the people in my life. It's hard to convince myself that.
Or is it yourself, your whole self that you have to convince, or is there just like a part of yourself that's going inadequate motherfucker?
It's a part of myself. Like there's a part of me that's really proud of what I've done and what I am. But there's a small nagging but very loud part of me that is convinced that am not and never will be adequate. I've resurfaced the Dimspirations. I don't know if you remember my series.
Yes.
Of inspirational quotes turned upside down. And one of them is, it's true because it's loud, shout your ever critical inner voice. And it's not imposter syndrome if it's true.
Yeah.
So yeah,
put that motherfucker back in the box.
Yeah, I've been recycling them. I'm starting to put them out again, but I have some ideas for new ones. I feel like the intention is to ruin people's positive outlooks because I find them annoying, but the fact is the audience that they have is people who commiserate with the sentiment.
Yeah, you don't want to be the one ruining people's positive outlook.
No, probably not.
But what you're doing actually, as you just said, is like you're giving voice to something. I mean, it's those two you gave us an example are funny because it's something that we all experience to some degree or another, for sure.
Yeah.
Right. For sure. My check-in is like, you know how when you get strapped into the like roller coaster or one of those rides, they put that bar over you and it kind of locks. It's a little tight. It is for me. I'm a big guy. And then when the roller coaster first goes, it just like jars you, right? Like it's kind of a jolting start.
Yeah.
Even if it's just going slow. I feel like I've been having that jolt about 17 times a day. It's just been a period of one thing after another. Today's example, flat tire when I tried to take my kid to school this morning.
Oof, I hate flat tires.
And eye doctor appointment because there's just some kind of not necessarily scary vision stuff, but just not quite easy to understand vision stuff, right? These just things keep popping up. and here comes Christina.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm entirely too pissed, I think, to be of any use at this podcast venture. So
you're not even turning on your video. You're like, motherfuckers, I am not coming in.
I don't know why it is not. Oh, it's not letting me change it. It's wanting to use my phone for some reason. I'm incredibly pissed right now.
It's okay. I mean, if you need to, like, just take a fucking run up a wall or something, but you're also welcome here.
Yeah, no, well, like we want you here, but feel free to leave and come back, and we'll like loop you into this mental health check-in.
Yeah, my mental health is basically I've spent hours of my life trying to get Taylor Swift tickets and can't, and now all the tickets are gone. So I'm now going to have to pay God only knows how much for seats to go with my mom in Atlanta. I don't know how I'm going to get tickets to Seattle. I did get tickets to New York at least, but motherfucker, I swear to God, I'm so fucking pissed right now.
So do you need to bail and just keep trying?
I'll check in with you guys later. But this is the Christina angry appearance of Overtired.
Should we leave this in or edit it out?
You can keep it in. I don't care.
All right.
Yeah,
we'll leave it in.
Yeah, and pop back in anytime.
All right, I'll pop back in. Hopefully, I'll be able to be successful at some point. All right, bye.
All right.
Good luck, Christina.
Thanks.
All right. So we're stopping and starting on a roller coaster. You got some eye stuff going on.
It's been a really hard few weeks because little things have been going wrong constantly, as big things are also going wrong constantly. So one interesting thing is there is a nationwide Adderall and thereby Vyvanse shortage.
Oh, really?
I can't get a prescription from mine. I take a pretty small dose, 20 milligrams, although I was planning to jump up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But friends of mine who have been able to get it have only been able to get it by calling around to all sorts of different pharmacies to see if they have any. Oftentimes finding luck with mom and pop pharmacies, but I would imagine that that's a phase that will be over quickly once everyone realizes you just need to call the mom and pop pharmacies. And so for me, that hasn't been such a big deal. In fact, it just so happens I had a friend who had stopped taking it and had a bottle of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was
depended on the kindness of strangers before.
Yeah. And so I was able to just kind of re-up that way. But just want to send my love and care out to anybody out there for whom it's a real problem that they can't get a hold of that particular medication. Because I know for some that it's a lifesaver every day. And I also know that it being sort of an amphetamine, like, you know, you could make bad decisions trying to fill that gap.
Here's my concern. I have a refill coming up on Thursday. If I were to go, 3 to 4 days without my Vyvanse, when I started again, 3+ days, when I started again, it is almost guaranteed to throw me into a manic episode.
Oh,
like drug vacations do not work when you have bipolar. So for me to run out is not just a matter of not being able to focus for a few days. It's a matter of probably losing a week or more.
I just realized, because I've been noticing the last couple of days, I feel pretty well treated for bipolar overall. Yeah. But I do have periods where I feel like, I'm sure this isn't how it works, but this is how it feels. Like it's in there, but it's not quite getting through. Right.
Yeah.
It only pops out in certain ways. Right.
Yeah.
Wow. I just filled that Amazon cart pretty full, like I'm just going to go ahead and close that, like that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
And you're helping me to realize two things. One, that I should be paying close attention to that, given that I did take about a week off because I ran out.
Yep.
And then started at a higher dose.
Yep. That'll
and also just one more thing for me to worry about with people out there in the world who can't get it, and knowing that can be what happens if you have to take a break and come back to it. So that really sucks.
Well, I mean, and it's not just like being on stimulants long-term fucks with your brain's ability to produce things like dopamine and serotonin. It alters the way that your brain produces those chemicals. And when you are suddenly without something that your brain has depended on to produce something like dopamine, going on and off of it can greatly affect the levels of those chemicals, which when you have a chemical imbalance like bipolar, can easily lead to swings in one direction or the other.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Wow. That's a bad situation, that shortage. I don't have a sense of how quickly it's supposed to come back.
What's sad is if you really wanted to, you could probably find cocaine pretty easily. Mm-hmm. Which is guaranteed to send you into a manic episode.
Well, and this is what I meant when I said, it worries me because it is an amphetamine, that it might be, if somebody has a history or just knows how to get cocaine because they did it, right? Mm-hmm. And is feeling a little desperate, maybe that's, a risk. And so everybody out there, be strong.
Be strong. I know exactly what bar to go to in town to find Coke.
Any bar?
And, yeah.
Any kitchen?
Yeah. Like I know where all the Coke heads in town hang out. I know exactly what bar to go to, and I won't. I don't need that. My life is fucked up enough already.
Yeah, so that's sort of a mental health check-in. Otherwise, there's just been a lot of activity in my life that is like, I've been noticing, partly because of medication, but I think also because I have remembered to remind myself how much I have been through in my life and how many hard things I have passed through, impossibly hard things I have passed through. And I kind of had that talk with myself because there's so much coming up. And I've noticed that now when things like the jolt, what would have been the jolt, I actually don't even feel the jolt. I just kind of go, okay, we're pivoting. Now we've got a tire to be concerned about, you know? And so maybe that's my advice to anybody out there. And talking to all of you, you've already been through so much. You can get through this too, is my advice.
Speaking of mental health, I'm going to take our first sponsor break. Quote, "You just need to take better care of yourself," unquote, is not a response to mental health struggles. You know all too well you live with them. Sometimes you need something more to achieve a real and lasting breakthrough. Maybe it's time you check out a guided ketamine therapy program. MindBloom can help. MindBloom is a leader in at-home ketamine therapy, offering a combination of science-backed medicine with clinician and guide support for people looking to improve their mental health and well-being. MindBloom connects patients to licensed psychiatric clinicians to help them achieve better outcomes with lower costs, greater convenience, and an artfully crafted experience. To begin, take MindBloom's online assessment to determine if MindBloom is right for you. If approved, you'll schedule a video consult with a licensed clinician where you'll discuss your goals and expectations for mental health treatment. MindBloom will send you a kit in the mail complete with medicine, treatment materials, and tips for getting the most out of your experience. After only 2 sessions, 87% of MindBloom clients reported improvements in depression and 85% reported improvements in anxiety. It's time to enter the next chapter in mental health and well-being. Let MindBloom guide you. Right now, MindBloom is offering our listeners $100 off your first 6-session program when you sign up at mindbloom.com/overtired and use promo code overtired at checkout. Go to mindbloom.com/overtired, promo code overtired for $100 off your first 6-session program today. That's mindbloom.com/overtired, promo code overtired.
Brett.
Yes.
You have an nvUltra update.
I do.
Is it a big update, a little update, a medium update?
No, it's more of like a what the fuck's going on update.
You mean you're going to answer that question, not you're asking it.
Yeah. So I had a meeting with my co-author of nvUltra, Fletcher, right before this podcast. And we haven't talked for a couple months. And things have been kind of like, we've just been putting out beta updates to keep it from expiring while we sort through some shit. Fletcher has a lot going on. He is essentially the only person who can solve some of the bugs. Like he owns the code for a good portion of nvUltra, and I am entirely dependent on him to fix certain things. And we had a meeting today. We went through our checklist of what's stopping us from releasing our 1.0, figuring out what is, a showstopper, like what has to be done before 1.0 and what we can do after an initial release. And we narrowed it down to like 3 things. 2 bugs for him to solve, one thing for me to look further into, and then basically testing for StoreKit, allowing us to have in-app purchases on the Mac App Store. And we're at 1.0. We can finally, it's been years.
Yeah.
Like this has been in progress for years. And I was starting to lose hope. It was going the way of, do you remember BitWriter?
Yes.
Like I had this, I keep hitching my wagon to other people's stars because I'm not confident enough to put out something that people like. With an app like nvUlt, you are going to put your entire knowledge base into that app. And the idea of data loss, of something going wrong and you losing your knowledge base, is terrifying to me. Like being responsible for other people's knowledge bases is terrifying. And I've never wanted to do that on my own and be solely responsible for someone losing years worth of notes. Which is why I've always leaned towards having any app I work with a folder full of markdown files that basically can't be corrupted. Like there's no way to lose a folder full of markdown files short of losing your entire hard drive.
Yeah.
Which is the way I used nvUltra. It's the way we built nvUltra. It's the way that BitWriter was going to be built. But I've still wanted help from people that I trusted more than myself, which is why Fletcher and I teamed up, or why I teamed up with Fletcher. So we've got a great product. Anyone on the beta knows that it's something that you can use every day as a daily driver. I use it every day.
I can vouch for that. I use it every day.
I love it. I don't know what I would do without it. I would probably switch to Obsidian, but Obsidian, the text editor in Obsidian is not ideal for my needs. It's not compatible with services and pop clip extensions. And honestly, I just want nvUltra to reach maturity. But I think...
So do I hear you're saying you're very, very close?
I've been telling everyone we're very, very close for like a couple years now.
Okay, let's upgrade to very, very, very close.
Very, very, very close. Like we have narrowed it down to 3 to-do items, and the only one that is a real showstopper is getting the purchase mechanism set up. And honestly, if we run into further trouble with that, I'm just going to put the app out on like Paddle, for example, skip the Mac App Store and just make it something people can purchase directly.
I was hoping you were going to say Pirate Bay.
I'm sure you'll be able to find it. If you care to pirate it, there's really nothing you can't pirate.
Brett, that's exciting. I know from knowing you what a journey this has been, and and I can't imagine, but I do know. And I love the app, and I'm really happy for you that you're very, very, very close.
Very, very, very.
Each one being one of the 3 items you have to tick off. Each very.
Yes. So
that's how we'll do it from now on.
As we check them off, we'll get less and less very close.
Excellent. That's fantastic, man.
So I wrote a NordVPN script.
Yeah, cats.
Yeah, and we've done it before. You've heard it before. I still find it funny.
What about a random word generator?
What do you got for me?
I don't know. We'll random word generator. Great Wilco song. No, that's a random name generator. Wilco song. All right, let's see. Randomwordgenerator.com. Way to lock that one down. Man. Adjectives? All adjectives. And we want 3 words. Here we go. Generate. Concerned, insidious, curly.
Okay.
Go ahead, Brett.
I am a huge fan of concerned, insidious, curly television.
Oh, yeah.
Which honestly you can't find a lot of in the US. Mm-hmm. None of them are available in my region. And if they were, I wouldn't necessarily want anyone to know about this obsession with concerned, insidious, curly television.
Yeah.
I'd like to enjoy those sweet consternations in privacy.
Oh.
Well, let me introduce NordVPN. With NordVPN, I can switch my virtual location on my device with one click, and I can access streaming services from over 60 countries at no extra cost. Presumably, one of those 60 countries believes in concerned, insidious curly television.
Well, the acronym, and this is funny, it's CIC, but it's pronounced SICK.
SICK. Believes in sick television.
Yeah, exactly.
You've probably heard that VPNs are great for online protection, but they slow down your internet speed, always buffering right before you see some of that insidious curly action. Luckily, NordVPN is the fastest VPN in the world. I don't even notice it running, so I can stream and browse online with no buffering or lagging, as insidious as it gets. I can even play insidious, curly, help me out, sick. I can even play sick, TV games with no pause. Furthermore, NordVPN prevents my internet service provider from bandwidth throttling, so I have consistently reliable Insidious love. It's the price of a cup of coffee every month and far less than adopting your own Insidious, curly,
concerned, insidious, curly, throttling, buffering.
So it's a small price to pay for premium cybersecurity and access to a vast amount of entertaining content from all over the world. Grab your exclusive NordVPN deal by going to nordvpn.com/overtired to get a huge discount off your NordVPN plan plus 4 months for free. It's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. That's nordvpn.com/overtired. Go grab this amazing deal. That's a huge discount and 4 months for free. Start surfing securely at nordvpn.com/overtired.
And if you have any questions for Brett about this particular subgenre, you can reach him at concernedinsidiouscurly.limo.
.limo? You gotta grab those .limo addresses while you can. That TLD is gonna go fast.
We did all right with that. That was good.
We've done worse.
That was a fun, let's say, sick.
Why is NordVPN the only one we fuck with? I want to fuck with all of our sponsor reads, but NordVPN has been the most lenient about letting us just do whatever we want to with it.
Yeah.
As long as we get that call to action just right.
Call to action. Yep. Call to action.
The CTA. As they say in the biz.
As they say in the biz.
Do you know of any other podcasts that listeners might be interested in?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Daddy.
Yes, Daddy.
1 second. I gotta get back to our show.
Okay. I gotta preface this read with, we had to rewrite it because nobody on this podcast was comfortable saying the word daddy as many times as it came up in the copy that they gave us. So Jeff valiantly rewrote this to say the word daddy less often.
Our podcast swap this week is with the Better Call Daddy Show. Host Rena Friedman Watts interviews guests like Jerry Springer. Man, that's a name. Judge Alex, Nanny Yvonne, and Johnny Spoiler.
No relation.
Each episode, Rena interviews the guest with her father, Wayne Friedman, weighing in at the interview's conclusion. You can tune in to Better Call Daddy at, you may have guessed it, bettercalldaddy.com. Thank you, Better Call Daddy. Damn it, I still said daddy a lot.
Bettercalldaddy.limo?
I don't know. They probably bought that up. You know, you always try to buy a few of the more popular ones.
I feel like that's a completely different site.
Yeah, no. Sorry, I'm still trying to shake off saying daddy so much. Brett, I did something kind of fucked up.
Okay.
It's been just a wild couple weeks and it's hard for me to focus, and I needed a project for mornings and for night. And so I decided for one day I was going to sort all of my books by Library of Congress catalog number, just to see if it sort of grouped my books in ways that were interesting to me. And so that takes a lot of work. You might think you just have to go inside the book. That's true. It's usually there. But for, I would say, a third of the books, what it says is that Library of Congress ID has been applied for. And it's not actually written in there. So you have to go searching for it. And if you're me, you want to find the right edition and all this stuff. And so I wrote it on all my books. I wrote the Library of Congress ID on a Post-it note. And I sorted them all that way, which was awesome because I am at a point where I need to get rid of some books, and I've already gotten rid of a lot, but I also am at a point where like, I'm kind of just bored with how I organize my books. I just, the ones that you're not reading, like if you want to keep them, but you're not reading them, you just, I need to do something to keep me from reading them. So
you need some reason. You need to justify keeping them around.
I need to, yeah, right. That too. But it was, I mean, I don't know if anybody out there with a lot of books thinks this is interesting, but it was actually quite cool to see how it grouped different books. And I was kind of surprised by some things, but I have one little kind of comical tidbit. And I know you expected the comedy was coming soon.
I knew it would be.
There is a Black theologian who was a professor of my partner's at Union Theological Seminary in New York City. It's a very progressive, storied seminary. It was awesome to live there. Raphael Warnock actually overlapped with our time there by a year as a student.
Nice.
Topical. And, yeah, just getting that news hook in. But anyway, there's this guy, James Cone, who is like a really, really well-known and beloved radical Black theologian. And in I think it was the 70s, wrote a book called Black Liberation Theology. And it was an incredible book, kind of merging Black power with some theologies that were emerging in Latin America, and just generally coming out with something incredibly crisp and badass and just powerful as hell. Anyway, James Cone, may he rest in peace. I was looking at his Library of Congress number, and the way that the Library of Congress numbers work, thank you for asking, is you'll have it'll be like HN 183.A44, and then the year, right? And the letters at the top tell you a subject and a whatever, the next level of subject. But the author's name is represented by the I can't believe I'm doing this. The author's name is represented by the first letter of the author's last name and then a number. Okay. So I look at James Cone's book, and I look at his Library of Congress number, and I look at his author ID, which is C666.
Oh, no.
How awesome is that?
Oh, no.
There's some
For
trivia.
a theologian, when I was a kid, I'm talking 5, 6, 7 years old, I collected rocks. That was my thing. I was going to grow up. I was going to be a geologist, and I collected rocks. And my parents, to encourage my endeavors, would let me hang out with geologists, which for people who believe the earth is 6,000 years old was a bold move on their part.
Right. Because the rocks tell the truth.
Right. So, but I had a collection of, I don't know exactly how many, but less than 100 specimens. But I had collected crystals and rocks from all over the world. And I decided I was going to create a cataloging system. And the first 2 letters were country of origin. And then there was a 4-digit number that represented region. And
Whoa. How old were you when you were coming up with your own naming convention?
I'm going to say 6.
Fuck. Okay, go ahead.
It was the same year. It was the same year I started programming, when I was 6 years old. And I developed this. It was, I think, ultimately an 11-digit serial number for each of these rocks in my collection. And I would carefully, on the back of the specimen, put down a layer of whiteout in an oval, and then paint in the serial number for the rock. And then I would have an index card catalog of all of my specimens, so I could look at a rock and I could flip through the catalog and locate all of the information on that particular specimen. And honestly, it wasn't necessary. I could have just put a card with each one in its little display case. But the idea of developing a system, a catalog system for my collection, was so appealing to me. I really got off on the whole idea of catalog systems.
Okay, hold on. Listeners, everybody, you too, Danny Glamour, pay attention. Let's all go back in time and give this little boy a big hug. That is amazing. That is amazing.
And then they sent me to a school for the gifted and talented, and my life really took off from there.
Did you do you have those anymore?
I have some of the specimens, and some of them still have the old catalog numbers on them, but I've long since lost track of the cataloging system, so the numbers are gibberish to me now.
Do you have them in your house?
Yeah.
Will you take a picture for the show image?
I'll see what I can find. Yeah.
That is fantastic, man. I love that. I love that so much, and that it coincided with you starting programming. I mean, my God. So now, like, I remember once having a long conversation with you about tagging, and now if we were to do that again, I would just couldn't help but see that little boy in you as you talked about it, not just the like adult computer genius.
Well, and I ran into the same problems when I started programming, which was like I had friends who were taking calculus in third grade. Like I went to a school for gifted and talented, and I always felt like the imposter there. And these friends would like, I'm working with Logo. You remember Logo?
I mean, I know what it is, but I didn't use it.
And I'm drawing like floor plans for a house with Logo, and they're creating fractals. And they're teaching me like, well, it's obviously if you do this in this pattern, it's going to create and it's blowing my mind at 7 years old. And like I've always suffered from this, like I can do this, but I can never do it as well as the people around me. So
same.
that started really young for me.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. I hear you, man.
I have a friend who composed or not composed, but played Beethoven on an 8-bit sound card. Like monophonic, like, so to make it sound like you were playing a chord, you had to sequence multiple notes in rapid enough succession that it would audibly sound like a chord. Which you can find on like old Atari games and everything.
Totally.
But it takes some genius. And I have a friend who pulled off like an entire symphony on an 8-bit sound card. I've always been surrounded by people way smarter than me.
See, you know what though? You're making me think about myself here, because I have said exactly that so many times. And it's interesting to me on the other side of that, where I kind of want to be like, are they way smarter than you though? Right? Like, really?
Sincerely. Yes.
I know sometimes it is just the truth. I definitely get it. Should we do some gratitude?
Yeah, let's do some gratitude.
Okay. You go first.
Okay, I will start. Affinity, like Affinity Photo, publisher, designer.
Yes.
They make all of the amazing Adobe competition.
Yep.
For like Photoshop and Illustrator. They just came out with version 2 of all 3 of their apps.
Oh, wow.
Designer and photo and publisher. And they're good. My pick for today is Affinity Photo 2.
Okay.
There are new features in all of them, but Affinity Photo 2 adds like so the layer palette, it was always workable, but there were always things about it that bugged me in version 1. Like it was hard to move child layers around. You couldn't tell the difference at a glance between like a mask layer and an adjustment layer. Like they fixed all of that, completely reworked the layers palette. They added non-destructive raw editing, so you can reprocess a raw photo at any time.
Oh, wow.
Like cool stuff like live masks for adjustment layers. And you can apply adjustment layers to like hue and luminosity ranges, which there's some really cool effects there. Live mesh warp, like they've always had mesh warp, but it's been a little annoying.
What is mesh warp?
Basically, imagine you put a grid over a photo and then you drag points in the grid to warp them, and it adjusts the photo smoothly underneath it.
Cool. I've never done that.
great for like aligning things in a photo that need more than just a rotation, where you actually have to like shift, like liquid warping.
Yeah.
And they added WebP export finally. But it's a ton of new stuff. It's totally, I think it's like for $100, you can upgrade all 3 applications. And so I'm exploring them right now. I have only dug into photo because that's the one I use the most. But yeah, it's a great update.
There's a thing about their iPad app, and there's an amazing image of a zebra, and they've made it look like a large balloon is pulling its stripes off. I was like, that is some deep thinking, man.
Their marketing materials, like
it's gorgeous.
This stuff they put together using their own apps, it sells itself. Like they're such amazing compositions that you're like, oh, if I could have an app that could make that, I'll pay for it.
That's awesome.
And it's like $60 per app.
Nice.
And compared to what you pay for like Adobe Creative Suite
monthly,
they're a steal. They're so good.
So you're a developer. I'm wondering what it must be like to put out version 2 of all 3 of your seriously major apps at a time.
Oh my God.
I don't remember. I don't feel like I've seen that happen often.
No, probably not. But they also link their apps together such that, like, right now you can drag a publisher file into a photo document and then change the page. Like, you could apply so you put a magazine into your photo document and then you apply a mesh warp to like curl a page up. Then with that live mesh warp applied, you can change which page is showing in the publisher document.
Whoa.
So everything like ties together such that they almost have to release it all at once. Yeah, but it's a huge undertaking. I don't know how many developers they have on staff, but it's got to be a significant amount.
That is amazing. Man, can I do a quick follow up on a past gratitude?
Yeah.
Last night I met had dinner with somebody who writes Marvel comics, and she also is a YA novelist. And I asked her, because I just had a feeling, anybody who's doing all that kind of stuff, I'm like, you use Scrivener, don't you? And she's like, yep, I sure do. And what was fun is something I only know from your previous podcast, Systematic, is that is or at least was built by a single person.
Yeah.
I feel like
he has a developer on staff now.
Okay.
The original Scrivener 1.0 was developed by a single developer, and it is such a complete and really complex application that even with 2 people, it's still an outstanding piece of software.
And what's so unique about it is, like, of all the nerd software that, might come up from the 3 of us on Graptitude, that is the one that, man, its reach is so far. Like, people that don't otherwise do any kind of Mac nerd stuff or just like nerd software, they are all over Scrivener.
Because it's a pro level app. It's not what you would consider indie software, even though it very much is.
Right.
But like professional writers rely on Scrivener, and it has quite a good reputation. It is in the writing community.
Truly amazing. So, and I have other stuff like that. Most of my Graptitude is just follow up. One is Christina had talked about VHS, a tool from Charm Bracelet, which makes such good stuff like bubblegum, which allows you to write terminal GIFs as code. And somebody took that and recreated sci-fi terminals from movies we all love, including Matrix, including Jurassic Park, War Games, of course, Alien. And it just is such a cool way to show you what VHS is capable of, but it's also just fun on its own. And so I want to put that there. That was Christina's pick, VHS, a couple weeks ago. And then for me, like, I just want to like shout out again to Firefox containers. Starting with their Facebook container, which just like allows you to open Facebook, open Facebook, look at Facebook without Facebook being able to get its dirty little fingers all over everything else you've opened.
Filthy paws.
And what's so cool about it is they went from there to letting you create any kind of container. So like I have a container for my banking stuff, and I have a container for one Gmail account, which means I can have another container for another Gmail account. And so I can have all this stuff open. But the cool thing is you can make it so that whenever you go to that URL in the future, it automatically opens in the right container. And that is just like such a beautiful thing. I'm so grateful to them because I've been on Facebook more lately than I have in the past. And it's just so nice to know that I've got it in a little maximum security prison. And I can, if I want Zuckerberg to come out, I can let him out. But otherwise he stays in. You're here. Hi.
I'm here. Yes.
I just wanted to throw in that I watched an entire day and a half of GitHub Universe, and it was a delight to see you on screen doing like a real Today Show kind of vibe.
Yes.
Between
that was kind of what
all
we
of
were
the
going for.
talks. Yeah. You were very good. I was very impressed. I could not be on as much as you were on for a day and a half. It was exhausting just watching you. Like that would be so emotionally draining for me.
And thank you for saying that. It was really fun, but yeah, no, it was sort of exhausting. And then what was great about the event, what I loved about it, but it also just added to the exhaustion would be I would step off stage and try to kind of like, I really couldn't attend sessions, unfortunately, but I'd walk around and interact with people, and I would run into people that I knew, who some of them I haven't seen in years, and then, immediately have to get into conversations and stuff. And so it was just like, you're like literally never able to, like, we had a green room and we did go in that from time to time, but for the most part, like, yeah, you're just not ever allowed a time to like,
it would be fun to do
on.
one or the other, to host or to greet, all your old friends. But to do both, that's a real plateful.
No, it was a lot, but it was really fun. And I'm glad you watched, and I'm glad, did you like the content? I thought there were some really good sessions and stuff in there.
Yeah, it was excellent. I love GitHub. I love everything GitHub's doing.
Yeah, I do too. Okay, so my pick of the week actually is going to be, and I'm sorry that this is an ad, but it's not, because it's cool, GitHub Codespaces, because it's now free for everybody for 60 hours a month. So Codespaces is actually incredibly cool. So the idea is basically it's more than just VS Code in your browser, because there are some other things that can kind of do that, but it's basically like a whole dev environment in your browser or in your local dev editor or on your iPad or whatever the case may be. So the idea is basically using the remote development extension, which is what this is based on, which has been probably the single biggest like game-changing developer thing in my life, basically, I have to say. Like, so you remember, well, obviously you remember, you would, but listeners might remember, TextMate had like the remote TextMate extension that was in Ruby, where you could basically be in a terminal and then you could just type in, mate, whatever, and then you could open your files in your terminal and whatnot in TextMate. And that was great. Okay, so what if you could do that, but in addition, you could also have access to all the files in a project. You could have all like the build environment variables. You could run something, you could test it, and it didn't have to locally be on your machine. You didn't have to have the dependencies installed on your machine. You didn't have to have Docker set up.
You didn't have to run a container. Yeah, exactly.
You didn't have to have Docker set up. You didn't have to deal with Kubernetes. You didn't even necessarily have to be on like the same platform of what you were building on. But you could still do it from like either your local VS Code instance, or if you wanted to, you could do it from a web browser. Well, that is GitHub Codespaces. And so the idea is you can create a dev container.json file, and that's an open standard that a lot of people are using, like JetBrains is using it. A lot of people are using it to basically in your repository, set up all your project files and basically be like, this is the container essentially, or the VM that I would want this project to run in and how I would want to access it. But you can also do really cool things, like you can say, these are the extensions that I want to have automatically installed. And these are like the settings that I want to have automatically imported. These are the dot files that I want to have automatically using. Yeah. And they can be done like on a per repository basis. And then you spin it up, you use it. It is happening on the cloud, but the way that it happens is actually remarkably fast. So like what's happening locally on your end feels native, and then any of like if you're running tests or builds or whatever, that's what's happening on the cloud, meaning that you can, like, we use this at GitHub, and the GitHub repository is like, we use like 64 cores for it because it's a massive monorepo. And this would be the sort of thing that if you were trying to do a build on your own machine, even on an M1, it could be a really long process. And also would be something that you wouldn't necessarily want to have to like dedicate all the resources on your machine too, right? Like, okay, I'm just trying to do a build. I have other shit I need to do.
Yeah, because you're only working with a fraction of it. You
Exactly.
don't want to
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is where Codespaces, I think, is really great for a lot of scenarios. A, for really big things where you might need more power. But B, I think like one of the ways that we've seen a lot of people use this, and this is why I'm really excited that we now have kind of a free plan available for everyone, which we've worked really hard to get, and that we hope will be competitive and that people will like, is that like if you're in the classroom, I think it's really beneficial, but whether you're like, high school or college students, or if you're doing, like upskilling or people who are learning to code, like it's a lot easier to give people kind of like a preset environment to play with than it is
for
to
sure.
be like, hey, for this workshop, like this is actually a great example. Like even if you're a like adept developer, if you're taking a workshop and the first half of it, like oftentimes they'll give you pre-homework where they're like, hey, you're going to need to, you're going to need to set up this environment and you're going to need to have all this stuff done before we even get started. If instead you can just, go to a repo and click an open Codespaces button, that changes so many things. But it also, I think, like will make it easier. Like if you want to commit something to a code base, right? Like if you are wanting to contribute something to someone's open source project, but again, I don't necessarily want to have to install all the dependencies and containerize everything that's going on just so I can make a commit. Like I might actually want to make some changes, but I don't want to have to necessarily set all that stuff up. Right. Like I think that it's there are a lot of ways where both like for people of developers of all backgrounds can really take advantage of it. I've been using this since it was called Visual Studio Codespaces. And before that, a lot of us at Microsoft were using the remote code extension, which is what all of this is kind of based off of, to run things like in VMs or in our closets or whatnot, like on like Raspberry Pis or on servers or in other things, to basically be like, we were like trying to figure out, hey, how can we get Visual Studio Code running on a web browser? So I've been using a variation of this for a number of years now. I love it. And then the thing that we announced at GitHub Universe is that Codespaces is now free for all. It used to only be available to teams and like enterprises. And now it's available to everybody for 60 hours a month. And so if you want to have a more powerful VM, if you want to use it for more time, then you pay. But it's free for everybody for 60 hours a month. And that was a really, really long kind of ad. But I also but I think it's really cool.
For those who missed GitHub Universe, that was your taste of the brilliance that came out of GitHub Universe this year. Yeah, that was an exciting announcement. Yeah, I actually haven't played with Codespaces.
I think you would love it. Even
like Oracle doesn't even have an enterprise account. We have whatever we pay per seat for Teams.
For Teams, right?
Yeah, but we don't have enterprise. So I haven't played with this yet. Definitely going to explore it now though.
Yeah, no, I think you should. I think you'll like it a lot. Like I said, like it makes just doing even small things a lot easier. What I love about it is I switch between computers a lot, and I don't always know what I have locally set up. And like I did some demos of Codespaces when I was in Tel Aviv, and I hadn't been at GitHub very long when I did that, and I like showed off. I was like, hey, this is a .NET project. I don't have .NET installed. I opened up my terminal, showed them it is not installed. Then using VS Code, like I didn't even use the web browser. Like I opened a Codespace instance, and then I was like using the terminal in Codespaces. And I was like, look, here it is. Like
nice. Yeah,
all the stuff is awesome. There. So it's really cool. I think you'll like it a lot. It's good stuff. So yeah, Codespaces is my pick of the week.
Awesome. All right. Well, you showed up for what's 20 minutes of the show?
10 minutes, 11 minutes.
11. Jesus. All right. So you have no idea what else we've talked about.
I have no clue. But I will listen. I will listen.
Did you listen to last week's?
I didn't.
With Brian and Quinn.
No, I didn't, but I will go back and listen to it.
I recommend checking it out. It's two hosts from the Technically Queer podcast.
Oh, awesome.
You've met Brian before.
Quinn
was a delight. Definitely, if anyone missed that last episode, it was just me out of the 3 co-hosts with the Technically Queer podcast. That's
awesome.
Or 2 of them. Yeah, I think it came out great. I loved it.
That's great.
But thanks for showing up. I'm sorry you didn't get all the tickets you were hoping for.
Well, I got the ones for New York, which that's great. But I really wanted to go with my mom, and it is now going to cost us significantly more money.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah. So instead of being
but it's going to work out. It's going to work out.
It will. It's just instead of paying $1,500, I might wind up paying like $3,600, and
that's insane.
It is insane, but but at least I got floor seats in New York, and the New York show Phoebe Bridgers is opening for, so that's exciting.
Awesome.
Yeah, but
I still haven't checked her out. I still need to familiarize myself.
I thought you had.
I thought
Phoebe. I thought you had.
No, I told you I would, and I never did.
Okay, because like she of all of them, like she actually is your shit, like unabashedly.
Okay,
like unabashedly.
Right. I will redouble my efforts.
Yeah, she's
awesome.
Right.
Well, thanks for showing up for a little bit, Christina. Appreciate it.
Thank you, and yeah, sorry for just coming in hot. You like literally got me when I was like at my hottest. I was like at my hottest. I was like, motherfucker.
I feel like if Jeff hasn't edited that part out at this point, I feel like it's a good comedic break from the mental health corner.
Honestly, it kind of is. Honestly, if he doesn't edit it out, honestly, it should just be like a bonus thing that we put on Instagram. And Christina appears and brings chaos, completely changes the vibe.
Chaotic evil.
Indeed.
Hey, get some sleep.
Get some sleep, Brett.
The system is going down now.